evening. You're watching Just the News. I'm Amita Balachandra. We're starting off today's bulletin with a story that's coming from the state of Maharashtra. The ED, or the Enforcement Directorate, has arrested Maharashtra Minister Nawab Malik today in connection with the money laundering case linked to the activities of underworld don Dawood Ibrahim and his aides after questioning him since morning. Now, the Times of India cited officials who said his statements were recorded under the PMLA and he was arrested under the same provisions as he was evasive in his responses. Stepping out of the ED office after questioning, Malik told reporters, and I quote, "We'll fight, win, and expose everyone," end quote. Now, to give you a bit of a context of what has really happened, the Enforcement Directorate had carried out raids at 10 locations on the 15th of February, including premises linked to Dawood Ibrahim's late sister Hasina Parkar, brother Iqbal Kaskar, and Salim Qureshi. According to NDTV, some evidence related to property purchased by Nawab Malik surfaced during the course of that investigation. Moving on from the story now, parts of Chandigarh have been left without electricity and water supply for over 36 hours, and it's a major blackout following a 3-day strike that's been called by the electricity department workers. Now, electricity employees in Chandigarh are on a 3-day strike against the privatization of power distribution. Now, there were reports of hospitals having to postpone elective surgeries that have already been planned. Chandigarh Health Services Director Suman Singh has told PTI, and I quote, "We had to reschedule or postpone our planned surgeries," end quote. Now, on Tuesday evening, the Chandigarh administration enforced the Essential Services Maintenance Act, banning strikes by the electricity department for 6 months. This case was taken, the Punjab and Haryana High Court took this case into suo motu cognizance on Tuesday, while the government alleged, and I quote, "The power failure is on account of acts of sabotage by the striking employees," end quote, which the employees have denied. Gopal Dutt Joshi, president of UT Powermen Union, has told the Indian Express, and I quote, "The speedy wins can be a reason behind the disruption of power in Chandigarh. We never disrupted the supply deliberately," end quote. Now, as of today, a Chandigarh Union Territory official has told Hindustan Times that the power supply will be restored by Wednesday evening. Also in the news, the government has told the Supreme Court that an amount of 18,000 crore rupees has been returned to banks from fugitive tycoons Vijay Mallya, Nirav Modi, and Mehul Choksi. Now, the Supreme Court is hearing a bunch of petitions challenging the wide scope of powers given to the Enforcement Directorate in connection to money laundering cases. Appearing for the centre, Solicitor General Tushar Mehta has cited the figures to reflect how a large sum of money is still stuck and not crossing recovery stage due to the protection being granted by courts. Also in the news, the Karnataka Home Minister today said as many as 8 people have so far been arrested in the Bajrang Dal member murder case in Shivamogga, which is in Karnataka. 26-year-old Harsha was murdered late Sunday night by a group of men. There were reports of arson and stone throwing in the city of Shivamogga during his funeral procession, which took place on Monday, post which the police imposed Section 144 of the CRPC, which basically bars the assembly of 5 or more people in one particular area. That has been extended till Friday morning. Moving on to hijab ban controversy story right now, an important clarification that's coming from the Karnataka High Court, which is hearing a batch of petitions which has challenged the hijab ban in the state. The Karnataka High Court has, as of today, clarified that its interim order, which restrains students from wearing any kind of religious clothing in schools and colleges, is applicable to campuses which have a prescribed uniform, and that it only applies to students. The court will continue to hear the matter tomorrow. The court has also gone on to today ask the state government to know how involved is the Campus Front of India and its role. Senior advocate S.S. Naganand, who is representing the government PU College for Girls in Udupi, where the protest first began way back in December, told the High Court bench that a uniform dress code was present in college since 2004 and that the hijab rule was started by some students who owe allegiance to CFI. This is the allegation that's being made. The court will continue to hear the matter tomorrow again. On to COVID news coming in from across the country, starting off with a remark by the Chief Justice of India, N.V. Ramana, who said that the Omicron variant of COVID-19 is a silent killer and it takes a long time to recover from the strain. The CGI also noted that there is a jump of 15,000 cases. Now, the remark came after the Supreme Court Bar Association President and Senior Advocate Vikas Singh for us urged the apex court to revert to a full physical hearing. Now, the CJI then said, and I quote, "It's a silent killer. I suffered in the first wave, but recovered in 4 days. But now in this wave, it has been 25 days and I'm still suffering." Meanwhile, the Supreme Court today rejected a petition seeking cancellation of offline examinations for class 10th and 12th to be conducted by all state boards, including the Central Board of Secondary Education, which is CBSE and ICSE, and National Institute of Open Schooling. Now, dismissing the plea, the Apex Court said that such petitions were misleading and giving false hope to students. Now, the CBSE has decided to conduct Term 2 board exams for Class 10 and Class 12 from April 26th. Meanwhile, the Election Commission has lifted restrictions on rallies and rodshows, which were imposed due to COVID. The poll body has announced that it has allowed 50% attendance in a series of relaxations that have been announced earlier this month. On to politics right now, starting off with UP election space for voter turnout. ANI has reported that according to the data shared by the Election Commission, a turnout of 57.45% was recorded as of 5 p.m. Of course, the actual number will be announced much later. 3 more phases are left in Uttar Pradesh, the voting for which will take place on the 27th of February, March 3rd, and March 7th. Meanwhile, according to Indian Express, the DMK led by Chief Minister M.K. Stalin on Tuesday swept the urban local body elections, winning all 21 city corporations and 128 out of the 138 municipalities in Tamil Nadu. The party also won 400 out of 489 town panchayats. Let's now focus on Russia-Ukraine conflict, which is developing by the minute. As of today, hundreds of Indian students arrived from Ukraine in an Air India flight on Tuesday night. PTI has reported that they were happy to be back home amid escalating clashes or tensions that are taking place between Russia and Ukraine. There's one report from Indian Express which says that several students, of course, complained of steep airfare tickets and that a lot of students couldn't make it back to India, but hopefully they should be over the next couple of days. The Indian Embassy in Kiev, if you remember, had earlier asked students to temporarily leave the country of Ukraine. Air India had also announced that it would operate flights on the 22nd of February, 24th, and the 26th. There's also a comment that's come in from External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, who on Tuesday said that the situation in Ukraine has its roots in the post-Soviet politics, the expansion of NATO, and the dynamics between Russia and Europe. Now, in an interactive session at a think tank in Paris, he said that the world today is in the midst of multiple crises, and these developments have generated new challenges to the international order. Meanwhile, Ukraine's foreign ministry has warned the country's nationals not to visit Russia and urged its citizens already there to leave the country. Now, the ministry said in a newly issued travel advisory, and I quote, "The foreign ministry recommends that citizens of Ukraine refrain from any trips to the Russian Federation and those who are in this country to leave its territory immediately." End quote. Russia meanwhile, has also started evacuating diplomats from Ukraine. BBC reported that both the Russian news agencies TASS and AFP have confirmed the evacuation after the Russian Foreign Ministry announced the decision yesterday. In the meantime, a number of nations have now imposed sanctions against Russia. The US has announced wide ranging sanctions against Russia, and US President Joe Biden called it, and I quote, the beginning of a Russian invasion of Ukraine. To put it simply, Russia just announced that it is carving out a big chunk of Ukraine, end quote. He was obviously referring to the move of Russia recognizing two rebel held parts of eastern Ukraine as independent, a move that Ukraine said attacks its sovereignty. Earlier, the European Union, Britain, Australia, Canada, and Japan announced plans of imposing sanctions on Russia. Germany halted a major gas pipeline project from Russia as well. Ukraine's parliament has approved imposing sanctions on 351 Russians, including lawmakers who supported the recognition of the independence of separatist controlled territories and the use of Russian troops in eastern Ukraine. Also, there's information that amid rising tensions with Russia, Ukraine Security Council today approved plans to declare a state of national emergency. This, of course, must be formally approved by the parliament, and it requires stepped up document vehicles checks, among other measures. We're going to continue to bring you updates on the Russia-Ukraine conflict, but this is all that we have for you in today's bulletin. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.